And hi, Annalise. Thanks for joining
So,
us this afternoon.
pleasure.
Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the work that you do and the role that the arts has played in that?
Yeah, I have a charity which is an independent advocacy charity for people with drug and alcohol problems or issues. It was inspired by myself because I'm in recovery from drug and alcohol addiction. Um, I'm in recovery now 11 years, and I choose to it's my recovery is abstinence based, which means I kind of wave that white flag and I don't pick up anything. It's just easier for me that way. Um, I got into recovery through a 12-step program in London when I was doing the geographics and kind of running away from my issues. For anybody who doesn't know what the 12-step program is, it's Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, and I I sort of found my recovery through that, but also through counselling. And I joined this is cutting a long story short, by the way, but I also kind of started volunteering in the mainstream drug services around this area, the commissioned ones. And I became I was a peer women's advocate worker alongside another charity and a peer mentor. And then I started training the peer mentors. And then I did a foundation degree in counselling and ended up working in Durham Prison on the therapy wing. And then I set up TRAC, which is the Recovery Advocates and Consultants, which is based in Middlesbrough, but it covers Teesside. And the reason for that is one, that I'm a bit of a maverick and I can't work for work for anybody, and two, I've got like a big voice that needs to be heard, and I've got so much passion to help other people, and I realised from my own experience that there wasn't much independent advocacy, if any, out there to support at that time to support me through social services process um, around my child. So my child was kind of given to my mum when he was 8. After a lot of drug use, I was addicted to crack cocaine for over a decade. Previous to that, it was kind of drinking and raving and things like that. So yeah, I'm in recovery today, and there is a lot of help out there and a lot of hope. And I am very passionate about women's recovery, so I have a women-only recovery group on Facebook, and there's a lot of is it memes or memes, whatever you call them, and a lot of support and some peer mentoring and things like that going on. But we also do. I'm a great believer of recovering in the community. So we have community retreats for women, and what that basically means is we go we go on walks in the countryside and we look at nature. We find that very healing. Sometimes just to get away from all these like hardcore recovery programs, we just want to just have a break and just have a chat, and that within itself can be really, really powerful. Identifying, connecting, and we've also, previous to COVID, we connected with a local man who's an artist, and we actually put in an arts funding bid because we recognise the power of arts within recovery and the creativity that brings, and the space within someone's mind um, to then release everything that they're feeling inside. So we feel like it's also a kind of, that's one good way for the arts to be involved in recovery, the creative side, and to be able to express themselves through that, but also to engage people into recovery through the arts. So the idea of the project is that we rent somewhere like a hub in Middlesbrough town centre, and we set up a workshop run by the artist. Us advocates are in there as well, and anyone in the community who have got a drug problem can come in, or even just people whose family members have got a problem, and they can come and do some artwork in a workshop. But through the art, the relaxed environment, we can then maybe talk about recovery and what that's like to somebody like me who's in recovery. But then COVID, and so it's on hold until I don't know when, potentially end of this year, next year. So what we've been doing in the meantime around art is collaborating with other people, and we had a workshop just before Christmas. One was a wreath making, and that was brilliant. It was in collaboration with East Cleveland Arts, over in Redcar, and then we collaborated with another organisation called Hope Fields, and we went to this building and we did woodwork and made like not brilliant woodwork, because I'm not a carpenter or anything, but it was somebody who was really good at what he does, and he was showing us how to do how to make holes in this in this board and paint on rain days and Father Christmases and snowmen and put them in, like drill it and put them in, and it was just a lovely a way to express ourselves and a nice environment to then be able to talk without any pressure around what's going on for us in our lives and around recovery.
Yeah, really interesting. It's like, first of all, thank you for the really important work that you do. I know, from the experience of having addicts in the family, how important it is, because you can feel completely isolated and cut off, and that there's no support there. Kind of being told that until sort of serious crimes are being committed, there's nothing that can be done for you, and vast, like the waiting list being so huge. So yeah, it's massively appreciated. Really interesting what you're saying there in terms of like when you're an addict, it's like it's a constant. When you're recovering from being an addict, when you're being abstinent, it's like a 24-hour job. It's like your mind's constantly in that space of having to abstain and control your thoughts and your actions. And so that idea that actually the importance of that release, that kind of liberation of going for a walk and being able to leave it for a while, or just being absorbed in creating a piece of art, that just seems like a really important outlet for people that are having to work all the time.
Yeah.
That's and I think even for people that are that aren't having difficulties, that don't have issues, that's the role that art plays. So do you, when you have these projects, how do you reach out? How do you find the people to, how do you engage with people? How do you get them to come along or participate?
So like I said, I have a women only group on Facebook. So a lot of women are engaging through that initially anyway. And so I can put on that what workshops I'm doing, the fact that we're going for a walk, the fact that we're doing Zoom sessions, safe space sessions for women, and they engage that way. It's a lot of self-referrals, people just finding out through me doing things like this, they find out that there is someone out there who's willing to help, and especially what we are is a grassroots organisation, so we're just an alternative to mainstream, really, and we have a lot more freedom to do the things that we want to do, like going on walks and stuff. And I feel like a lot of women are engaging who whose mainstream services find difficult to serve, or it just hasn't worked for them, and maybe they want a little more intense one-to-one support within a small community of recovering women. So we get referrals from services like the Job Centre, like self-referrals, other charities who we're collaborating with, who know what we do, and they may offer some support around mental health, but then they might want to refer to us and say, look, the lady wants to talk more specifically around addiction issues, and then together it works well. Yeah.
So kind of, if I'm just thinking, if you want to use this opportunity because obviously I'm like working with hundreds of artists now, what can we do to help you? I mean, you know, what can the arts do apart from just engaging in the arts? I'm thinking in terms of being able to use the arts to help give a voice to people that don't really get much of a say, that are kind of really stereotyped in society, you know, in terms of helping them tell their own stories. You know, how can, you know, 200 artists, visual artists, screenwriters,
Oh,
playwrights,
don't.
poets, you know, how can we help you?
Well, so I mean, I would love video, like a video of like the story. Like I don't know whether you've ever like a day in the life of a woman in recovery, potentially something like that. Somebody to follow us around on the women's walks. I don't know whether you've ever seen I can't remember the name right now, but it was around two heroin addicts, and it was just a day in the life in the heroin addict, and about what they were going through, what they were talking about, how their life was, so people can fully understand what it is like. And also, you know, around Middlesbrough. Okay, so like I keep jumping, right, but this is just me. But like around Middlesbrough, you see all the artwork, don't you? And there's some brilliant stuff. Like I don't know, Bob Zilla did some, didn't they? And I don't know who does this art in the main, but there's the streets are full of it now, aren't they? And down alleyways and everything. And I think it's really, really, really positive stuff. And I kind of there's a lot of stigma around drug addiction, and we get really bad press, as if we're like chose to be drug addicts. We chose that our life was going to be like that, you know. And you know, when I was at school, if the teacher had asked me what I wanted to be, it wouldn't have been a drug addict. I don't even know how I ended. Well, I do know how I ended up there now, but you know, it's like, how did that happen? Of course, I didn't want to be like existing and having my life ruined and losing everything and having to start again and potentially nearly died and things like that, you know. But the media paints a really bad picture. And yes, drugs have that, crime is connected to drugs, and because they're very powerful. And I get that, and I know that that's not good in society, and especially with the people who've been victims of that, and that's not good, and people do have to be punished for that. I do get that. But I think it's all, a lot of things are focused on the crime and punishing someone rather than the recovery of someone. Because if 80% of our clients have kind of suffered some sort of trauma in their life, and especially around child abuse. I'm not saying that's the only thing, and some people just fancy taking drugs, but like in the main, there is something underlying that needs to be looked at from the roots, or doesn't, depending on what the person wants. But I think, you know, can you imagine if you were around Middlesbrough and it was like, I don't know, like We Can and Do Recover, and lots of articles and pictures around people in recovery, and you know that we do contribute, we do get well, and we do contribute, and we've got a lot to offer, and you know, I just think that would be really good. And I tried to do an exhibition at the Arc, and it was, I put like an application in, and it was around stories. Like recently there was a UK recovery walk, and it was hosted by Middlesbrough Council. So there's thousands and thousands of people from up and down the country, especially, and a lot from Middlesbrough, who were kind of joining the recovery movement. So there was like banners and people whistling and shouting and walking around the streets saying, look, you know what, we do recover, and the more stigmatized we are, the more our voices are going to be hidden. So that was really good. And that's like, I would say that was the arts, with the banners and the just the movement, you know. I don't know, I just think maybe more stuff like that would be really, really good. Yeah, so I did try and do around stories, about telling people stories, and videoing that, to show people like the real person behind the addiction.
Yeah, I really like that. I really like the dual message of, you know, the backstories of how people got into those circumstances, but also highlighting the recovery aspect of it. You know, if you're just told, it's like you touched on it there. You know, a lot of link between child abuse and addiction, and it's kind of, you know, that particularly if you've suffered like familial child sexual abuse, you're kind of told that you're going to become a crack whore, basically. You know, that's the message that society seems to give us. It's like, right, you're doomed to this. Either you're going to go on and be an abuser, or you're going to be like, you know, that's your life written off. And actually, I find that to be not the case at all. I know so many people that experience that, and you know, it's like their lives are all about helping other people, and they, you know, they're incredibly strong, brave, courageous people that have done the work. You know, they've had to do the work, they had no choice. And yeah, again with addicts, you know, if you're like told that all you're going to do is fail in life and suffer because this happened to you, what do you aspire to? But if you're actually told, actually, it puts you in a unique place, it's made you a really strong, determined person, and you know, gives some hope and heroes to aspire to. And I think for addicts, that's absolutely crucial. Being able to think other people have recovered, I can recover. I might recover and fail and recover and fail and recover and fail, but other people have been there and eventually they've got there.
Well, I think as well, like there's a lot around domestic violence, and you know, there's a lot of women who have turned to drugs and alcohol just to cope with the domestic violence that they're suffering. So it's really, really important to get that message out, that there is, you know, there is a lot of women suffering out there. And so I've been nominated I nominated myself, to be honest, and I'm getting out there saying that to people now, going, you know what, if you want to change your life, change it yourself. What is wrong with nominating yourself? And I'm doing a lot of work with the sister around that and shouting about that to try and help more women to stop like waiting for people to rescue them, or people to kind of like I don't know, like you know, waiting for people to support them, and not support them. I just mean get out there.
Stop waiting for permission.
Yeah,
you know?
just like, get out and go. Like, stop waiting for it. Just go out like me. I'm going to nominate myself because you know what, I believe in myself, and by doing that, I'm going to raise a profile of my charity, and I'm going to help other people, and I'm going to make a difference. You know what, my destiny is in my hands. It's not an ego trip. Do you know what I mean? I'm not narcissistic. It's just that I believe that I can make a difference, and I'm not going to wait for somebody to nominate me, because people may not, for whatever reason, right? And if addiction's got such a bad press, then you know, I need to do something about that, and I need to be that voice for that other person. So I believe now, honestly, Track is up for a charity award in the Tees Business Women Awards this week, and also me for inspiring others. And you know, I think that's great for my work to be recognised, and I put a lot of hard work into this, and I've been fighting for years. And I just really hope that, like, for me, I just think there's my sister's place in there, and I think they're amazing. And there's Rubies, which is for young girls, which is really good. But for me, my passion is women and the stigma around addiction and getting women well. And just think, can they not rise this charity up now to say, look, you know what, we're not known massively in the area, and by doing these awards and even potentially winning one of the awards, it's going to raise our profile. Do you know what I mean? And like get the bad press out the way about women and stigma and recovery, so that women can recover and not be scared to come out, because it's hard. Because there's a lot of shame around women in addiction. We're supposed to be the carers. We're supposed to be, you know, we have children, and we're supposed to be, God forbid, we have an alcohol problem, or we've been caught having a spliff or something like that. Shame on us, you know. But we're human beings, just like we're equal to men, aren't we? So why have we got all this stigma, and why aren't we coming forward and getting well? You know, where is all this shame coming from? And it needs to be challenged.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I hadn't really thought of it in those terms, but you're right, there is a lot more stigma to do with women and conduct and addiction.
There is, and also around like children, you know, be careful. It could potentially be, you know, someone saying, I wouldn't go to social services about your addiction, your drug treatment services about your addiction, because social services will get involved, and you know what, your kids will be taken off you. You know, all of this negativity when the best thing to do is potentially get some support, because in the end, if you don't, it could be a lot worse of a situation,
Yeah.
you know.
Which is why I guess, that organisations like yours that are out in the mainstream are so important, because it'll be somewhere that people would have the courage to turn to when, without that of intervention that they're not asking for, which of course it can happen, and so it is a legitimate concern. So that it just shows how much it is essential to have these independent organisations. Well, I've got loads of ideas in my head of ways that we can work together, but we have run over a bit, so I will back to you with ideas and see any ways in which we can help you get your voices heard and get that.
Oh, that's brilliant! Thank you so much.
And really good luck with the awards. You definitely get my vote.
Oh, thank you.
All right, brilliant talking to you, and I look forward to you when we're back out there.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Yeah.